Alright, in a couple of previous videos I teased this item that I had purchased for my transportation slash sign collection. One of the things that happens all the time, and I hear this from YouTubers all the time, they're researching something and then they see something that they just can't believe. It's like, oh really? It's that price? Oh, I should get that. It's like, well, they hadn't intended on buying something. Maybe they were, browsing the eBay listings in hopes they would find something that they would want. And usually it's something that's 100% off their radar. So if you don't know and you've seen my previous videos, I have mentioned people like Sign Picker, one of the only YouTube channels that is a very, very serious, a dedicated channel to sign collecting, mostly United States ones. And this particular sign, I had no inkling of purchasing of it, and essentially I said, wow, this is amazing. This is a sign that I can find zero other than one example on all of eBay from the same seller, and this is a sign outside of the United States, north of me in Canada. I say north, but northeast or whatever you want to call it. And so, without further ado, I'll show you this sign. It's big, and I say big, but it's bigger than the normal things that I show on this channel. The reason why I'm not showing it to you with my other signs right now is because I'm not exactly sure how or where I'm going to display this particular sign. I'll probably throw it on a shelf, and I would like to get a couple more shelves put out in my sign area. Unfortunately, I don't have the room cleared for those particular shelves. So this sign is on heavy gauge steel. Usually in the United States they're aluminum. So I don't know what Canada specifications. This one has a markings in Sharpie on the back here, Ontario 2013. So I don't know if that's when it was removed or when it was installed, and it says 30. It's got the circle of 30. I don't know if that's the price, or if that's how many signs there were, or this was number 30, what that was doing on there. I don't know what that denotes here. We'll try to scoot this back here, and I'll show you the sign in its entirety here. I don't have the correct tripod here today because I have a different setup and misplaced that one, but I will show you here. This is Oxford County Route 2. I guess they call it the King's Highway. There's a story about this Route 2. Now it's a county route, and so it's not like part of the major, but number 2 is the lowest. They don't have like a 1 like US 1 or whatever sort of thing for Ontario. So this came out of Ontario, Canada. And if you know your history about Canada, you go through Buffalo, or United States, you go through Buffalo and blah, blah, blah. And so Buffalo and Canada, in some cases, share a lot of dualities. It's kind of interesting. But this is farther west this way or whatever. And I'll show you some pictures that I have copied off of MapQuest, Google Images. And it says Oxford County. It's only like about 1.5 feet. I mean, not even 2 foot by 2 foot, but it's a pretty big sign here. I mean, relatively large sign. It's super heavy for what it is. It's a very small sign, but very, very super heavy. I've got a couple pictures I've taken of it already. So let's get this back on the tripod, and I will show you what I am talking about here. So I did some research on this particular sign. And why did I buy this sign? Well, the seller was having a sale. I know from previous swap meets and antique stores that foreign signs and license plates command a premium, because where are you going to get another one? You have to purchase them outside of the United States. So this seller was in the USA. I said, that's step number 1. Step number 2, it was down to like the $20-odd range. Plus shipping. I said, oh, that's a pretty good deal there, because I know for a fact that this sign, if it's properly advertised, people would be asking $75 to $120 for that at an antique store. Maybe more than that, because unless you go to Canada, and there might be a few of them there are virtually zero Canadian signs. I typed in Canada route sign on eBay, and I came up with a whole string from the exact same seller of reproduction signs that they make, made to order type of thing. This one here is a legit sign because they sell vintage signs, and almost all their vintage signs have basically disappeared. They're down to like 12, but they do have another route or route sign, if you will, for I don't remember which number that was right at the moment there. But if you just do your homework and look around and see, you type in Oxford County or something like that, and then you can find the completed listing and see what I paid for it. And then if you really needed one for your particular collection, it's really hard and rare to find vintage. I say vintage, but used legit street signs, whether it's Canada or the United States, for under the $50 benchmark, and especially closer to that $40 benchmark. It's not easy to do. So I will just show you a couple of things that I found. Now, I went all the way down on this particular road through Google Maps and looked for every single sign I could find. Now, obviously, I probably did not find all of them, because if you think about the main route and the road there, you would find feeder roads and stuff like that. And essentially, it's kind of a country road, like any other road out there. If you do like the Texas Farm Road type of thing, you'd be going down miles down, gravel, whatever. And then you find businesses. I think there was a Tim Hortons. I mean, every road has a Tim Hortons, right? But it was interesting to see how the maps was coordinated. And farther out this road, it was all gridded, like it was just like very, very well planned out. But very, very country rural setting. It would just be like any road that I have here in Oregon. There's no difference other than a couple of Canadian companies that I've never heard of, and that's it. Maybe some English, French speaking people there, but that is it. That is absolutely it. But here is an example, and I'll show these pictures at the end of the video here. This is Oxford with the east and west right here. And so that's possibly maybe a place where they put that. Now, why did they retire this sign here? And maybe they redid the road, something, a post came crashing down. Anything, any number of reasons why they could have done this changes. Maybe they changed the reflectivity of this sign. Maybe they're going to the lighter gauge signs, and so this was too heavy. I really don't know what happened to this one here. Hopefully we can go the correct direction here. Correct, okay. So they're usually mounted on a dinky little pole here, like this, and that's the road technically right there. And they're mounted on a small pole there. So there's one possibility there. And Oxford Road has multiple, I think it's Dundas Road, I think is what it's called, and then numerous other, changes. And then Oxford County goes, changes to the next county, so it's the next county, whatever that was. And then there's a piece of this Oxford, I think, that's just dead ends. And then there's like a big ravine or something like that, and it goes back to Oxford. It's very strange how that happens. Why they didn't continue the route, it looked like nothing. There's another sign here. So there's two. Then you see signs like this. Now this is the Canadian version of the, nothing, dead end type of thing here with a road going this way and this way. And if you didn't know most about Canadian signs, many of them are nearly identical to the US ones. But you see, we've got the Oxford signs here. I don't think that was that's part of this sign here, so I don't think they were attached to this. And if you know anything about Google Maps here, you'll find a lot of, stitched together images and sometimes duplicate images. Sometimes it's almost impossible to zoom in on that particular sign. There's these particular signs here, so you wouldn't need this single sign here. And again, these signs are disappearing. There's one with the east right here, so there's a variation of the Oxford and the east there. And again, you can see that just the countryside here. It's just mixed use, lots of farms and houses, and I can't remember what else was mixed in there, but small companies and businesses. There's a west one here, so it's probably on the other side of the road. But again, there are more miles per hour or kilometers per signs than these particular signs. It's really hard for you to know which road you're on. I found something between barely 6 or 12 signs total, and a bunch of those are not the single standalone signs that we see here, or the dual signs. Here's one that says Oxford Road right here. So there's the number 2 there. And again, you can have roads off to the side that mention these things. More than likely, they're going to be these informational signs that have a conglomeration of stuff on there, and not the single standalone sign. There's one by a cornfield. Here's another one, and this is a different route there. That is not Oxford there, but that just shows you 16 miles to London, Ontario. So that is kind of in proximity where that is. This is Dundas Street. That's the street that it's on. We have a Tim Hortons here, and at this Tim Hortons here, we've got, you know, the two, the east and the west there, and then one going off to 119 south. Usually the signs will have like a King's Crest or whatever. We'll show you eBay very quickly here. I think that might be one of the last signs here. And then it's going, there's a town called Woodstock. I think there might be a Paris as well too, but lots of similar names like Woodstock and London sort of thing there. But we got west and east. Again, I could be wrong about the Paris, but you can see there's this particular thing might have replaced, you know, one of these, you know, so they could have had the two Ontario signs there, and that one might have been replacing this, you know, dual sign. Why would you need two signs when you could put them on one? That's maybe what happened there. And then we got the Oxford Road, and they do have a fair amount of roundabouts. Not a lot of them. They're looking to put a roundabout where I live, so it's just kind of interesting and unusual. And these roundabouts are impossible to basically photo capture some of the signs here. Again, with this Oxford Road, I think I took a previous picture of that. That's Inger. Anyway, was it Ingersoll? And then this is Woodstock, Ontario. And we've got one on a pole by a bridge here. We've got one on a pole by a bridge. So, again, there's not very many signs there. And again, why did I pick this one? Because out of the two ones, I said, you know what, I've researched this one a little bit more. I think maybe basically the cracks and the scratches on each one of them, it was 50-50. It was like, it didn't matter if I grabbed one or the other one. And then that might be the last picture here. There's another one of Route 2 or Route 2 right here. Oxford 59 County. So then there's another one for Route 59. Our country Route 59. And again, just like anything in the United States, there's really not a crazy amount of landmarks. Most of the roads that I have are not monumental. Again, without really knowing exactly where this was placed, is kind of up to me just to decide where. And again, here's another example of one of these. Oh yeah, there is a Paris right there. So London, Paris, and all that fun stuff there. So London Paris is actually a country gospel singer. I think that would be one of the last signs. There's another one of these here. Go back here. Oh, that's just a picture I took of NASCAR in-car camera there. But anyway, so there's that one there. Now we'll just go to eBay here very quickly here, and I'll just show you what I was looking for. And we've got this particular seller here, which I bought it from, Signs by Jake. And they have some Pennsylvania signs, which I do have on my radar at some point. There's various other sellers that have them in that similar price range, about the $50 price range. Sometimes they come with one sign and other signs. And so I had to figure out, there's Northumberland, which is the one I did not pick up, number 45. Will I pick that up? More than likely not. I really don't need a lot of, you know, random signs far out of my wheelhouse in my collection, but I just thought, hey, that's kind of interesting. I'm going to kind of work my way towards that one. Just a few other signs here. Again, sign collecting can be just very, very daunting on eBay because you want to do all your homework before you realize, you know, what you're buying. Now, a lot of these reproduction / you know, newly minted signs can be hundreds of dollars. But this one here, this giant sign right here, well, I say giant, but big enough sign here, that could essentially be a fraction of the cost of a new sign. So that's why I always implore people to do their homework here. And the box it came in was a similar shape to that. I mean, it was a very well-packed box. Very, very well-packed box here. I mean, it was, you know, I don't know what this, it's, you know, essentially a triangle with the corner cut off there, but a very, very well-packed box there. Used my trusty pocket knife from the last swap meet there. I say trusty pocket knife. I don't seem to have it right here to show you that, but that is just kind of a fun little thing here. But essentially what I did was, you know, Canada, I just type in Canada sign or whatever. What I did was I went to Canada Oxford sign, and I had to go to the completed listings here, and then I basically, when I go to this particular, how would you go about even finding these signs? Essentially, I went to a seller that I had bookmarked and I saw that and it was on massively on sale. I said, you know what, I'm going to take that. In fact, I missed out on a couple of extra dollars of savings, but that's okay. But, you know, Canada, and I just typed in Canada route sign and I came up with almost zero legit signs. Canada street sign is what we want here. Now let's see if we can find anything here. I don't want to do a 20-minute video, but I probably have to do this justice, and I will show pictures at the end of the video of more of what I'm talking about here. A little slideshow type presentation. These are just photographs, you know, right here. So again, you're doing your homework, you'll find photographs, collectible transportation signs here, and we'll see what we can come up with here. Again, these ones here are going to be mostly there's London Road, okay, that's whatever. Standing signs, again, these are just whatever. Mostly they are newly minted signs here, Niagara Falls. Again, watch what you're doing here. Again, a lot of these are U.S. signs, but they just say Canada, located in Canada. So these are Canadian sellers. They could be Canadian signs or just, you know, again, newly minted signs here. Again, these are all made to spec signs here, so have to be very, very careful because this is a new sign for a man cave sort of thing there. We got mostly, again, there's a four-way stop sign here. Again, you get a mixture of absolutely everything, the ever popular stop signs, incident sign. Again, this is the person I bought them from, and they're mostly known for making reproduction signs, but they do have a separate category for the real signs there. So very, very happy to get that one there. Again, provincial highway sign, that is not a real sign, that's a newly minted sign there. That's supposedly a 1920s era sign, but they don't say that it's a newly minted sign until you do your actual homework there. So it can be a very daunting task to pick out something there. Again, this is a video that I could do a lot longer video, but I think I want to stop at this particular point here and show you the details and things that I found, and maybe perhaps find a spot where I'm putting this. Hope everybody post a like or comment, subscribe sort of thing here. But again, it's really cool to get an authentic sign that I don't have to go and travel many miles to get, and it's a very heavy sign for the small size that it is. And thank you for watching.